Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some Irish corned beef sandwiches using some of our leftover corned beef from our roast last night. And then we are going to make some Aunt Aggie's Irish theme. So we're going to do the green, the white, and the orange, and like the 5 colors to make our Aunt Aggie's cookies, which we love. But we'll bake up a stick that we made before because they are great and they last in the the freezer for like a couple of months. And then we're going to feed our sourdough starters so that we can make some homemade sourdough bread tonight. So let's start out with our Aunt Aggie's. So I'm going to be using my stand mixer because it's just a bit easier to cream sugar and butter together in a stand mixer, just because it has a little bit more strength behind it. So we're going to add in 2 sticks of butter. So 1 cup of butter is what you need for this recipe. Aunt Aggie's are a family recipe that's been passed down since like the 1800s. And they're one of my kids' favorite cookies. It's a mix kind of between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. It's not super sweet, but not unsweet. So it's kind of got like the perfect mix. And I love just dyeing the dough up to make fun colors for the holidays. So we've got 2 sticks of butter in here, and then we're going to add 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. There's 1 and 1.5. Perfect. I'm going to move this out of the way just to free up some space. And lift my mixer up, and we're going to start creaming it. Now, the best way to cream your butter is if you have like room temperature butter, because otherwise the colder it is, the harder. This was semi room temperature. I took it out, but it didn't have the best, wait time on it, but it will still cream up nicely. For these cookies, we're going to be putting them in the freezer, and then you cut them out. So they're like a cut cookie that comes out of the freezer. So you don't need to worry about whether your butter is cold or room temperature because everything goes in the freezer. There we go. So we're creaming up our butter here. It's slowly mixing together. You can see it's kind of lightening in the color and it's getting pasted together. That's, the creaming process. Takes about a minute or so to cream your butter together. If your butter is room temperature, it will cream much faster than cold butter, but no biggie, just need a few more seconds in here. Okay. So we've got our butter creamed up. Now we are going to add in 3 egg yolks. So we're going to have to separate our eggs over here. So I've got a small bowl. If you've never separated an egg before, it's really not that hard. It's not a daunting task. You just crack it like you normally would. And then you want to have a bowl or something over it. And then you're just going to kind of toss it back and forth. And then all of the egg yolks or the egg whites drop in the bowl below. And do it with the next one. This is just the simplest way. There's so many methods out there of how you can separate your egg yolks, but this is the one I learned as a little girl, and it's just easy. So this cookie recipe uses just the yolks, which give it a richer, texture to it. That's why I kind of say it has like that shortbread texture to it. There we go. So we've got 3 yolks in there. Move that out of the way. And we're going to cream those yolks into our butter and sugar mixture. And it's going to give it a rich kind of golden color to it because it's just the yolks. Beautiful. And it's mixing together. You can see it almost looks like straight up butter in there. Perfect. So we've got our yolks creamed together with our 2 sticks of butter and 1.5 cups of sugar. And now we are going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Cream of tartar sometimes goes by the name alum. So if you see it in the store, it might be under alum instead of cream of tartar, but they are the same thing. Cream of tartar, if you're not familiar with it, it's really kind of a thickener base. And it helps keep these cookies together. So we've got 1 teaspoon of baking soda and then 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. So I feel like snickerdoodles are another cookie that uses cream of tartar. I use my cream of tartar in my homemade Play-Doh recipe just because it's a good binder. So I've got my 1 teaspoon in here. And we're going to give these a nice cream as well. And you just want to mix it until you feel like the baking soda and the cream of tartar is thoroughly mixed to it. I like to cream them into my butter and sugar mixture instead of taking the time to sift the flour and the cream of tartar and the baking soda together. So that just, if you cream them in there first and make sure they're mixed in there well, you can cut out that step, which, you know, I feel like sifting is such a pain. And then we're going to use 2 cups of flour. This recipe is also really easy to double or triple because it's a great recipe to keep in your freezer. So when I make this, I typically double it, and then we keep our kind of logs of it in the freezer. So when we take it out, we can have cookies whenever we want. So this is a log that I just took out of the freezer. We have red and yellow because we made green and white and red and yellow for the Super Bowl. And we're down to our last log since then. But they last for about 3 months in the freezer. So it is a great recipe that you can just make a bunch of and then keep a log in there and cut it out when you want fresh cookies, and they bake up in 7 minutes. So we're going to cream our flour into our butter, sugar, and egg mixture. There we go. I'm going to get a spatula to push some of the butter that's stuck on the side of my bowl down. So I'm just going to go through, and sometimes when you're using a stand mixture, your butter will get stuck to the side of your bowl. So I'm just going to push that down, and then we'll let it cream. You see right now it's kind of got a shaggy mixture. In a few seconds that will form to a nice thick dough together. It doesn't take long, but they're a very simple cookie. It has just what? Eggs, sugar, flour, baking soda, cream of tartar. So 5 ingredients. And then if you add food coloring, 6, but delicious. And everyone loves these in our household. They go by so quickly. I can make a batch and they'll be gone within hours. Okay, so we've got our dough right here, and we're going to flip it out, and we're going to kind of just mush it together. And I'm going to make 3 mounds because we're going to be mixing our food coloring into it. But before I do that, before I get my hands all in here, let's prep our corned beef sandwiches, and we'll pop our cookies in our oven. So I have my oven preheated to 350. So they just cook in the oven at 350 for about 7 minutes. So super fast. So let's prep our corned beef sandwiches. Then we'll cut up our cookies, pop them in, and then we'll dye our new batch of Aunt Aggie's in a theme for St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to use up our sourdough breads that we made. This was my traditional loaf that we make, a basic sourdough loaf. And I'm going to see how many I get out of this. I'm going to see if I can use all of this for our grilled cheeses or our corned beef sandwiches. So I've got 2. Can I get 2 more? No. So I can't get 2 more out of this. This will just be good toast bread. So we've got 1 corned beef sandwich with that. And then we're going to use, this was our specialty loaf that we made the other day. It was Parmesan and oregano. So we're going to use this one, and we're going to make a corned beef sandwich out of this. So we make homemade sourdough fairly often here, and whenever we have leftovers, we make it into sandwiches. Tonight we'll be making 2 more loaves. We'll do another basic sourdough loaf, and then I haven't decided yet what our specialty loaf is, but I do like to have some, fun with it. try new flavors. So we're going to start and we're going to spread some room temperature butter on just one side of each slice of bread. This is the slice that, or part of the bread that is going to be going down on the skillet. Beautiful. And we're going to go over here. And this is our traditional. You can see we have a really good crumb in our sourdough, not super huge pockets, kind of nice and swirled together. We get a lot of that from your stretch and folds with your sourdough, and also making sure you have a really well fermented starter. Okay, so we've got our butter on it. So I'm going to place one down, and then let's start with we'll do that on the top one, our cheese. So since we're kind of on the Irish theme with St. Patrick's Day and we had a corned beef roast last night, here is some of our corned beef left over from our roast last night. We have that video posted if you guys want to see that. It was delicious. And then we are going to be using some Kerrygold Dubliner cheese. We use this in our scalloped potatoes, and they were absolutely delicious. So I'm going to go with my cheese cutter, and I'm just going to cut off some slices, and we're going to do a nice layer of our cheese, making sure that it doesn't go over the edge of our sourdough. Otherwise, it will just burn on your skillet. So we've got a nice layer on this one of our Dubliner cheese. There we go. And, you know, if you wanted to really get into St. Patrick's Day, you could use some Irish butter, the Kerrygold. Most people don't know that Irish butter is different from American butter because it has to have a higher fat content and less milk solids. Same with European. So their butter is typically a bit creamier.
You have a question? Where did you get that apron?
This one, I got it like 2 weeks ago or a week ago in IKEA. Or IKEA, that's how you guys pronounce it here. But it was just one there. I thought it was really cute. I got it on sale for like $5. It was like a win. Woo! I feel like I'm getting so dirty cooking that I'm always like, I need so many like aprons. Okay, so here is our beautiful corned beef roast. If you've never had corned beef before, it is essentially a brisket that has been brined in salt, but it retains its pink color. So it is not raw right here. This is cooked all the way through, but it's just got it's a salty meat with a bright pink color. Let's see if we can put it here. But it is delicious, especially to make sandwiches the next day. That's why, like, when you get it, you can get a big one, and then you can make some delicious corned beef sandwiches or Reubens. Reubens are typically done on rye bread, but we're going to make kind of one that's probably more traditional to what they would eat with their leftovers in Ireland. So we've got our layers of our corned beef from a corned beef roast. You could also use deli meat. You typically can't buy it prepackaged, but if you go to your deli, they have corned beef there that you can put up. And then we're going to use some sauerkraut, which is just fermented cabbage. Cabbage is a big thing in Ireland. It's one of those vegetables that grow in a nice cooler climate. We're going to put a nice layer on here. And I will say the sauerkraut, the acidity of it really helps kind of cut through the saltiness of the corned beef. So it is definitely a must on it. If you don't like it, you can just use a little bit of it, but it does go really well with the flavor profile and acidity. So we've got our nice layer of sauerkraut. And then, this is my secret. I love to put a little bit of Chick-fil-A sauce on it. It's just kind of, like a sweetened mayo. So mayonnaise works well, but it just really cuts through and it adds a nice creaminess to the sandwich. And I absolutely love it. It's like my little secret ingredient. And now we're going to go back with another layer of Dubliner cheese, which is it tastes similar to a cheddar. It's definitely an aged one, but it's delicious. Let's see, and it melted up great with our scalloped potatoes last night. It was so delicious. So we've got our Dubliner on, and we'll put our sourdough right here. And then I'm just going to turn my skillet to about a 6, and we're going to let those slowly melt and cook up while we work on our cookies. Okay, so let's move this slightly out of the way. Turn my handle here. Okay, I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. Perfect. Grab my towel. Okay, let's chop up or slice up our cookies to show you what Aunt Aggie's looks like when they're done, so you can kind of see it. And they're absolutely delicious. So when I'm cutting them up, you'll want a cutting board and a good chef knife because it is a thick dough and it is frozen. A lot of times I like to take it out and let it sit for 10 minutes so it's a little bit softer, but you want it cold so it cooks up nicely. We're going to put a nice sheet of parchment paper down. I love baking with parchment paper. It works well, easy cleanup, and they come out nice. So here is our log of it. You can see we have some green dough in it from when we did our green for the eagles, because we mixed all of them together. So you just kind of chop off the end, and then you're going to cut them about like a centimeter thick, not super thick, and then you lay them out. These do not spread out super far, so you don't have to worry about trying to get like a huge amount of space between them. But they cook up really fast. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and these will cook for about 7 minutes until they're done. And then you pull them out, and they'll sit for about 2 minutes, and then you can eat them right away. But it cuts through really nice and easy. Again, this is like 5 ingredients to make them. Super simple. These are probably my kids' overall favorite cookie. Every single one of them likes them. So they are definitely a big hit here. So here we go. We'll do about 6 rows. So you don't need to do a huge amount of spacing. Also, if you love cookie dough, my kids say this is one of the best cookie doughs. They love to eat it. And it goes fast. I'm surprised they haven't popped their head in yet to try to steal some right now. But they love this dough. It's a very simple kind of a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie.
You have 2 comments. One is an Irish person who stopped by, says your food's looking great.
Oh, great. Thank you.
The second one is asking what type of cookies.
These are Aunt Aggie's cookies. So they're a family recipe that has been passed down since the 1800s. And the best way that I can describe them is a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So they are not as sweet as a sugar cookie, but they have a nice texture similar to a butter cookie. And they're an all-around favorite. And the fun thing is you can just keep them white if you want to, but we always add a little bit of food coloring and play them up for the holidays. And they also last for about 3 months in the freezer. So when I make them, I'll make a double batch, and then we'll keep them out. And whenever my kids are like, oh, can we have some cookies? I can pop out a log, cut them up, and bake them, and they can have some fresh cookies in no time. So let's pop these in the oven. And again, we have my oven set to 350 degrees, and they're just going to bake for 7 minutes. And when they come out, the one thing is you can't take them off the tray immediately. They have to sit on the tray for a few minutes until they have cooled just a little bit, because otherwise they'll fall apart. Let's see. So I'm going to set for 7 minutes, and those will be ready to pop out. So we've got our Dubliner, where's our Dubliner cheese? We've got our corned beef sandwiches. I think they were ready for their first flip. So we just have the butter melting, which is perfect. So when I make my grilled cheeses, I do 4 flips. The first 2 is to warm up the bread and start the melting cheese process. The second flip on everything is to get the nice golden crust. Okay, now let's get our dough out. So since St. Patty's Day is just around the corner, we are going to dye these in the colors of the Irish flag, which is green, white, and orange. So we're going to divide this dough up into 3 balls, and then we're going to mix in the food coloring. So we're just going to push it together first, and then I'll make my 3 balls. Luckily, white we can keep absolutely the right or the same. We don't need to add any colors to it. Now you can mix this up in your mixer with the food coloring, or you can mix it in hand-wise. So I'm going to just do it hand, just to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to make a well, and then I'm going to mix my food coloring drop. So we're going to do green, and sometimes if you add a lot of food coloring to get to your color, you might have to add a pinch of flour more, because the liquid of the food coloring can thin out your dough a little bit. So there we go. We're going to see. I've got so many miscellaneous food colorings that it's, they always get there. So I'm going to close that up, and then we're going to do that. But I hear a nice little sizzle and a pop over here, so I'm going to see if we need to do our quick flip. Yep. We lost a little bit of corned beef. We're going to pop him right back in there. Oops. Did not grab that one well when I went to flip it. Okay. And we're going to cook it. I'm going to turn mine down nice and low. I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. Okay. Now we're going to knead this in. You could put on gloves because this will get your hands a little bit dyed from the food coloring, but it washes off quickly. So we're just going to knead the green into it, just like this. It goes. You can do it in a KitchenAid stand mixer if you wanted to. It only takes like a minute or 2 to mix it in there, but I find working with it by hand also works just as well. So I'm just going to knead it until we have it to the right color. Let's see. I think I'm going to add a bit more. I find that sometimes you need a lot of food coloring to make it. Let's see. See if we'll add a little bit of this green. And, they have like the different types of food coloring. They have gel food coloring, and then you have the liquid food coloring. There we go. We got a nice puddle. This is getting a nice bright green. Perfect. I find that the liquid food coloring works so much better than the gel food coloring. Perfect. Now, depending on your countertops at home, these are nice and quartz ones, so this will all wipe up real easy afterwards. But if you had like a butcher block cutting board, you might want to put a little bit of parchment paper down, and that would just save it. But look at this. Perfect, beautiful green dough in no time. Lovely. Just getting all of that. Perfect. Now we're going to move and we're going to make some orange, but I'm going to give my hands a quick wash to get off a little bit of this green. There we go. Just so I don't turn my orange greenish orange. But the fun thing about baking is like you get your hands a little dirty, but it's fun. It's like arts and crafts here. Okay, I'm going to make my well again. And I don't think I have straight up orange. So what we're going to do is we're going to do primary colors. We're going to mix our yellow with our red to make our secondary color of orange. It's funny how many adults forget like the basic like primary, secondary, tertiary colors. There was like a Jeopardy question about that the other day, and I knew it, but it was surprised. Like my husband was like, "Oh, I don't know what my primary colors are," and it's not that he didn't know it; it's just he didn't remember it. Like it's something that you don't necessarily remember. But here we did a good amount of yellow with 2 drops of red. Red food coloring goes a long way. So a little can make a long way. So we probably use 10 drops of yellow with just 2 drops of red to make this nice, lovely orange. And we're going to mix it up. And it's like, it's delicious. It's kind of like a cookie dough or a Play-Doh here. There. So simple. And now we have our lovely colors for St. Patty's Day. Sometimes I will make rainbow colors for St. Patty's Day, but that takes a bit more work because you're constantly switching them. Okay, I'm going to wash this, and then we're going to flip our corned beef sandwiches because they should be about ready. There we go. Let me dry my hands. We're going to do the flip. I think we should have a nice golden crust on this. Hopefully. Oh, a little bit longer could have worked, but we'll switch it. There you go. Golden crust on this one. So I'm going to move this one to the hotter side. We can see our Dubliner cheese is starting to melt, which is lovely. And we have about 15 seconds on our Aunt Aggies are about to come out. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to form those up into a nice long log for freezing. So let me grab. Apparently my bear mitts are quite a hit. My best friend got these for me a couple years ago, and I love them. You see it? Beautiful. They've puffed up nicely, got a little bit of crackling on it. And the pretty part about these is they're puffy now, but in about 5 minutes, they'll have flattened out a little bit, and they're just the most delicious cookie ever. And they're so pretty. Like, they're just a pretty cookie that you can have. Okay, let's show you how we are going to make our logs for freezing. And that way we can bake these up later in the week. Because again, that tray of cookies will be gone in no time because they're more of a thinner, delicate cookie. So we're going to take a sheet of press and seal. You could also use wax paper or cling wrap. Either one works. Perfect. And we're going to start. I'm going to take half the dough because we're going to make 2 logs here. A lot of times I will do, I double the batch, so I'll make 4 logs. You can see how many cookies 1 log makes. And we're just going to press it like a nice long snake along here. I find press and seal works really well because it creates a nice seal around it, but you could definitely do wax paper, do a shorter log, and then stick them in a Ziploc baggie. We'll press these along just like this, and then we're going to take our orange thing and we are going to press this all the way across here. Perfect. Good. I think we'll spread this out in just a second here. So we've got our orange and our white, and let's get this. Not yet. I feel like I hear them, but they're still good. Okay, let me wash my hands real quick. The one thing is you can hear, so you want to check because you don't want to burn your sandwiches because the lunch is ruined, but they're perfect. So we've pressed our orange and our green, and now we're going to take half our white, and we're going to do the same thing, and we're just going to press it along. Don't worry if it's not a perfect log form yet, because we're going to give it a quick roll that will give you a nice round log, which will make, then when we do it out, this will have the 3 colors of the Irish flag on them, and they'll just bake up beautifully. There we go. So then I have it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it, and we just kind of smush along here, and then you're going to roll again, and we're just going to smush it, smush it, smush it. Perfect. Now we're going to grab our ends, and you're just going to twist and twist, and then you just kind of go around and you just smush it along. And this ensures all your colors kind of stick together. And now we have one beautiful log ready to go in. Okay. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So these cookies are so easy to make, and they're so, let's see, just a little bit longer on these. I'm going to turn up the heat and they'll be ready in a minute or two. But a crowd pleaser. These are our favorite cookies. Everyone asks for the recipe of them. I do have the recipe card posted on the link in our page. And then we've made these a couple times before. So super simple, 5 ingredients. And they're not a heavy cookie. You can easily eat, a couple of these and not feel guilty about it. Because I always say about 3 or 4 of these equal a traditional like chocolate chip cookie. So they're much lighter and not as hefty and heavy as a chocolate chip cookie. There we go. So we got our log across here. We're going to do our green. And if you wanted to, I can show you guys how to do a marbled effect. So we can do the marble effect on this one. So this will give you the tricolored. And now I'm going to show you kind of a marble effect in here. So you're going to start out with the 3 colors across like this. And then you're just going to take one side up, or we can break it in half. And we're going to just, let's see, we want to make it to where our colors aren't touching too many of, there we go. So then you're going to push it. So we folded them back onto each other, and then we're going to break it one more time. And then you just try to make it where colors don't touch. And now you can squeeze it out, and this will give you that pretty marbled effect for our cookies.
You have a question? Could you add nuts to the dough?
You could add nuts as long as you kept them finely chopped. So it could be kind of like a pecan sandy or something like that, where you did a nice fine chop on it. It wouldn't be there. Because you got to think these are going to be frozen, and you got to be able to cut through that dough. So here, we put it out, and you can even see now as I smush it, you got a nice marbling on our dough. You also, I like to keep these pretty small, but you can make them a little bit bigger and have a little bit bigger of a cookie. So you've got a nice, and then you just do a twirl. And we have our beautiful, okay. Excellent. Look at our perfect, the Dubliner cheese is all melted. So let me turn this off. And I'm going to get a plate, and I'm going to also bring my tray of Aunt Aggie's over here because they have now rested. And I'm going to show you what they look like. So when we took them out of the oven, they were nice and poofy. But now they sink down, and they should be ready to come off. So they're like a little bit soft, and then they firm up. After a day, they get crispy, but they're still good crispy. But this is the best time to eat them, is when they're right out of it. They're just delicious and a soft cookie. My favorite. Okay, let's get our corned beef sandwiches on here. We'll do this one. So this is made with our corned beef roast from leftover from our Irish dinner with Dubliner cheese, which is an Irish cheese, a little bit of sauerkraut, and then my secret ingredient is a little Chick-fil-A sauce. But look at this delicious corned beef sandwich, something that you can make with your leftover corned beef. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We try to do live cooking shows every single day, trying to show you what we're eating and have all the food we make, we eat. We have a big family. I've got 5 kids, and then my husband and I. So we're feeding for a small army every day. But again, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.